We are recording this. I hope you folks don't mind. You can always kind of like not show your faces or whatever. But anyway, welcome to the Pacifica Fight Back National Town Hall. It's August 23rd, 2025, and it's supposed to start at 6 p.m. We're a couple of minutes late. Michael, what was the title of this event? It was, you wrote it and it was long, so you can say it, okay?
I think it was something like democracy, diversity, and financial stability.
Right, okay. Everything that we don't have, in other words. So thank you for coming. And I'm sorry, my name is Sheila Hamanaka. I'm from WBAI. I'm just a member. Michael, who was just speaking, is going to be our Zoom host. Michael is the former interim general manager of KPFK. They're one of their best, I might add. He's going to be our Zoom host. So if there's any problems, you have to blame him. And now we're going to start. As you know, our guest of honor today is going to be DJ Eddie from Black Power Radio 96. And to introduce him, none other than the magnificent Mimi Rosenberg from WBAI and WPFW, where she's juggling two shows, Building Bridges and Equal Rights and Justice. And if that's not enough, she's also with the Ida B. Wells Media Defense. Did I get that right? I think so. Okay, Mimi.
Sheila, you're a bit muffled.
Oh, can we hear Mimi?
No, you were a bit muffled.
Oh, muffled.
Yeah, but in any event.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Been there, done that. So should I introduce Brother Eddie, who I do not see this juncture. I do know if he's on by phone. I believe he may be.
Yeah, he's.
Yes,
okay.
he is. So I will commence to introduce with great revolutionary love, we honor Eddie Maultsby Jr., the visionary station manager of Black Power 96.3 FM in St. Petersburg, a beacon of unapologetic Black truth and cultural resistance. Known as the world's best blind, yes, DJ, Eddie defied a life-threatening diagnosis to become a gospel innovator, beloved street performer, now the heartbeat, a station that uplifts grassroots voices and challenges media erasure. Under his leadership, Black Power 96 launched platforms like Local Going Global for unsigned Black artists and became a sanctuary for political and cultural empowerment. Under his leadership, the station has become a frontline in the fight against media erasure, colonial narrative, the silencing of people of African descent, of revolutionary people of African descent. Today, the station is also fighting a crucial legal battle to restore some $36,000 in grant money unjustly revoked by the county, an act of political retaliation against Black community media. This case is about more than funding. It's about defending the right of Black communities to speak, organize, and resist. Black Power 96 is not just radio, it's resistant. And Eddie Maultsby Jr. is its unwavering pulse for liberation and through the elevation of Black culture, the stories of the people by the people. And now, with great pleasure and honor, we welcome Eddie Maultsby Jr.
Eddie has to unmute his phone.
Can you unmute him, Michael?
I can't unmute him myself. He has to unmute on his phone. What's that star?
Yeah. Okay, I'm here if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we got you. Yes, go ahead.
All right. Yehuru, correct. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I just want to appreciate this time to spend with you all this evening, and so gracefully just saying thank you for giving me this platform. And again, my name is Eddie Maultsby Jr. You heard a lot about me, and again, I just really want to thank everyone who's involved with this process this evening to make this a reality for people across the country and around the world. Whoever's listening, whoever's chiming in with this, again, I just want to say thank you for being here. Now, as station manager, again, 100% blind. I don't see nothing, but I feel everything is something I say all the time, because I do feel the things that are going on with this station in our community across the country and around the world. Let's make no mistake about it. This is just not something that happens here locally in St. Petersburg, Florida, but it's everywhere from St. Petersburg, Florida to St. Petersburg, Russia, to St. Louis, Missouri, California, you name it. And we're having always to fight back for what we deserve and what we need unapologetically. I'm not going to apologize for anything I'll say this evening, because what I say is only the truth, and the truth shall be told, not only by me, but by people as my leadership, Chairman O'Malley Satella. He will say it all the time. If you got on the boat as an African, you got off the boat as an African. I'm not an American. How can I be an American? I'm not an American. I just happen to be here, not by choice, but by force. And this is what the United States government and the bureaucracy that they have going on that says that we can't say what we want to say. But yes, we can, because we have that right to have freedom, revolutionary freedom, the right to say what we want to say. And not only that, I would like to say to all of you all that are listening and watching and hearing me, that it's not only the right to be free, but the right to say whatever I want to say, especially in a community and a state and a country that says that they are fighting for the freedom, for all, justice for one, justice for all, one nation under God, and all that rigmarole that they say to people to just keep them oppressed and what they want them to do and learn and say and teach. I mean, that's one of the first things I learned when I got up and went to school, was to pledge to a flag that was not written for African people, for people like myself or indigenous people. That flag did not mean for African people. And before I want to go so much, they're giving me 15 minutes, and I don't think I'll take all the 15 minutes, but this is something I'm passionate about. And I believe that's why I became station manager, because here at Black Power, when I first heard about this radio station, it was in this infancy state here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And the word was, it's a new radio station coming, Black Power. And soon I said Black Power, that sounds like something I wanted to get involved with. And I did. So I came over to sign up after singing 35 years on the streets of St. Petersburg. Well, I was very well known. People just come up and down to a major store that was here for 35 years. Every morning, I sat at that store just about every morning, Monday through Sunday sometimes. And I would sing my heart out. But after 35 years, I said, I need something else to do. And here comes Black Power Radio. I said, that's for me, because I'm just born to be a revolutionary, born to not to listen to what the United States of America has told me, because of listening to people like Michael X, like the Chairman O'Malley Satella. Back in my day, the 70s, was known as Joe Walla. And Joe Walla made no apologies about who he was and who he was fighting for. He never fought for Africans and never fought for Russians or any other people. He fought for Africans, is what I want to say. He fought for indigenous people, not only Africans, but Mexicans, Spanish, anybody that was oppressed. He was fighting for, to unleash the thresholds that was strangling African people and making sure that they were not able to provide for themselves. And that's what this radio station does. It's a beacon of light and energy for African people everywhere, not just in St. Petersburg, Florida, because you can get us all on the app anywhere. And another reason I'm here is because I know how hard it was being a local artist. Again, you heard me say I sung 35 years downtown in the cold, in the rain, in the storm, in the sun, shining, beaming on me all day long, just trying to survive. Just trying to make a living for my wife that I married and my 3 kids that I had with my wife. 100% blind. What am I going to do in a country that's not giving me a dime, but all they want to do is hand me a welfare check or food stamps? And I know I am above that because I'm an African. And I know what the African people have one of the richest lands in the country. I know that from listening to other people that have came up fighting for African people like Michael X and Hamdou Feynman and so many others, Chairman Omali Yositela Jawala. So I know better than just to be satisfied with the conditions right here in St. Petersburg, Florida, and all over the country as gentrification has taken over. Waking up as a little boy, going to the refrigerator and looking in the refrigerator because I don't know any better at the age of 11, and there's nothing in there to eat. There's just a jar of mayonnaise and some water. And I go back and watch cartoons. And I get back up and I go to the refrigerator again, and I go back and watch cartoons. And I go back to the refrigerator again as if something was going to change. Nothing was going to change because we were living in poverty. And it's because of the oppressor has us living that way for my mother and father. But now what we're dealing with right now in St. Petersburg is this injustice with Pinellas County. For Pinellas County, we had filled out an application. And let me tell you, doing this process as station manager, I was online. You can't see me now, but then they could see me. I was on a Zoom call. And the first question I asked, because we were in a fight with the FBI, the movement was, and I asked them, I said, is this going to affect our chances of getting this grant for $36,000 or more? They took their time, a minute or so, and they got together and they said, no, it has no bearing on this case. I said, fine. And we proceeded and we won. We won over being 4th out of 79 applications. We were ranked 4th, and they approved the application. In November, we knew we were good. I said, my job is done. Brilliant. I can get the necessary tools I need because I'm 100% blind and can't see. I need computers to talk back to me. I need accessibility to help me to create more programs for African people and more programs for indigenous people all over the country so I can do what I need to do to help people get free, to win revolution, to win the right to say what we want to say when we want to say it, to a station that we can have people to come down and sit at the table to say what's going on. And then a few months after that, after sending the application and we signed the contract to receive this offer fund that was meant for Black Power in the radio station, in the community, because I'm very passionate about my community, no matter where they are, near or far. If they're Black people, this is my community. And so I want to do all that I can for it. So I'm very thrilled that we were able to sign the contract, and it's a done deal. Now, a month or two, I believe in February, we got the notice that they were not going to grant us this fund, this ARPA fund. And after being chosen 4th out of 79, why not? That would be the major question. Why not? And it says, and they come with this BS of saying, well, because you're affiliated with the Uhuru movement. Affiliated with somebody, is that the real reason? We all have to shake our head and nod our head and say, that can't be true. That can't be true. You could be affiliated with whoever the hell you want to be affiliated with. That should have no bearings on what you are doing for your community and any other source. But yet that was one of the first things they said. And then they come back and designed another notice saying, well, it's not because of this, it's because of that. The Tampa Bay Times wrote an article accusing us of doing all kinds of notorious, just a bunch of baloney, just a bunch of BS. But the things that they're doing are brutal. It's brutal what they're doing to indigenous people and African people and to this radio stations. It's not fair. So we're fighting, and we're going to continue to fight because that's what we do. If we don't fight, it's business as usual for our United States or your United States or whoever claims to be a United States citizen. It's their war against African people and everybody, against this radio station. But we're going to continue to fight, like I said, because if we don't, it's business as usual. Now we have went forward with a lawsuit because we have every right to do that, every right to fight for what was given to us. If people gave you something and then wanted to take it back, everyone in the world would be a part of that, would want to be on the bandwagon and say they can't do that to them people. Well, they did, so get on the bandwagon because they did. They trying to. So we're fighting. We went to one court. We're appealing again to another court. We have a proceedings going to be held in Jacksonville in November. If we have to take it to the Supreme Court, we will. That's one of the questions I asked our lawyers, and I want to commend our lawyers for the work that they're doing, taking this case pretty much pro bono, but we still have a lot of legal fees we have to pay because nobody does anything for nothing. And this is not only the legal funds we have to pay, we pay with blood, sweat, and tears. This radio station, I get up every morning at about 5:45 to get here, 100% blind. People, we have some people that can't even get to work, and the excuse is that they don't have a ride. Imagine a blind man. But I'm here. 8 consecutive years I've been here and working hard because I know the fight is real. And I'm going to keep fighting for freedom to speak, for freedom to say what I want to say, for revolutionary, to change the world. That's our slogan, not just explain it, but change it. And for this offer fund, what other station, it should be for the Black people. Black people don't have the support that they need in the community. So a lot of us, 40, 50% of us don't even have internet. Can't even get internet connection where we can look and see what's going on in our own community. But for not suggest around the world and around the country what's going on to us. We don't have that luxury. And if you go to the food stamp office and you say, I receive this kind of much, and this is all I receive is a disability check, and say, well, what do you do with your disability check? Well, I try to pay for my internet. Well, that's a luxury. That don't count. It's so many things that we're fighting against as Black people. I encourage everybody that's on this call to get behind this radio station, Pacifica radio station, every station that is going to fight back against a system that is not created for fairness, justice, and liberty. I commend everyone that's on this call that's getting ready to do that. We're in a fight. We need support. One of my things is to tell people we can't do it alone. We can't do it alone. It takes resources. It takes income. If you're willing to be with us in this fight, donate. Donate. That's a great way to fight because it takes resources. It takes income. It takes everything that we have to fight against a colonial system that has stolen resources from indigenous people. If there's any questions for me, I would love to ask. But again, I want to thank you for this time, and I appreciate this stance that we are taking, that you are taking with us. Again, donate. You can donate by going to blackpower96.org/donate, or use the Cash App. Everybody's doing that these days. So easy. It's simple. It's quick. It's $ Black Power 96. Again, it's simple, easy, and quick. $ Black Power 96. And again, I want to thank my leadership, Chairman Amalia Satella, Deputy Chair Ona Today, Director Kelia Naye, Lisa and Sandra Forrest, Lisa Watson from Minnesota, and Sandra Forrest for all that they do, fighting back as white people. That makes me more happy than anything in the world because these white people understand what it means to be oppressed, what it means to be having stolen property from you to give back. And that's what they do. And I encourage everyone to do that. Give back. Give back to something that's important. Freedom of speech, freedom of justice for everybody. If it's not for one, it's for everyone. If it's not for everyone, it's not for nobody. Thank you so much, comrades. And if you have questions, I'm willing to answer anything. Please fight.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Comrade DJ Eddie. And DJ Eddie has about another 10 minutes if people have questions that they'd like to ask. And Kirby, could you take over here? I understand I'm sounding a little muffled, and you could probably see you could probably call on people.
You're not sounding muffled anymore.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, anyway, Kirby, if you could take over. I'm visually impaired myself, so if you don't mind stepping in.
No problem, Sheila. Sure.
Thanks.
Everybody. So Michael Novick does have a hand up for a question.
Yeah, no, I wanted to share that in the chat. We did put the links for those donations. I think it is an important act of solidarity and of reparations. I think that the Uhuru movement has been very strong in leading the whole question of reparations. And I think that this would be an example of trying to repair some of the damage that this state has done to that station by providing solidarity and funds to support their legal efforts to win the money that they should have received. So in the chat, it's Cash App, it's $ Black Power 96 or HTTPS, etc. blackpower96.org. I think Sandra Forrest put in / legal defense legal fund, and people can use that directly. And I would say that we've had a number of speakers on from the Uhuru movement because of the attack that they've been under, which they've defeated over and over again in courts and in the streets. And so I think they set a really powerful example of the slogan, when we fight, we win. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I put my hand up for Stack, but because I'm doing a little bit of moderation, I'm going to ask if anyone else has a question for DJ Eddie. Okay. Yes,
Kirby, I just want to address the comrade that was speaking, and I appreciate that stance from him. We have a show here at 96.3 FM radio station called Reparations in Action, White Lives Shattered. And this program is really for white people to get involved, to join the African People's Socialist Party, to be a part of overturning the injustice for African people and indigenous people. This is wavering. I was on the program. They invited me to speak, and just listening to people like Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who ran for mayor here in St. Petersburg many years ago, and so many people like Sandra Forrest and Lisa Watson, and the list go on. Kitty Janice Kent. I was on this program, and I broke down, and I literally cried for 5 minutes. I literally cried. My heart was just heavy, and I could not compose myself for a couple of minutes. And they had to tell me, Eddie, just calm down some, or just relax, because I got moved in a way, because it's the vision of Chairman Omalia Satella to have white people, what other way to come together, no matter what color you are, to know that what has been done to African people are wrong. It's wrong. There's no right in what has happened all these generations and centuries. It has been going on forever and ever and ever. So for him to say to reparations now, reparations is needed now. It's been needed, but we are bringing it to the forefront. Reparations got on the ballot not because of any society leader. It got on the ballot because of this movement, because of Director Kile Anai running for reparations, for Jesse Neville, Penny Hess calling out for reparations, calling to the white people to be a part of giving back. I literally broke down in tears to see white people coming together to give, to organize with the African people. We talk about racism and all that. What the hell is racism? A made-up freaking word. I'm a very religious person, so I try to watch my language because I don't want to lose my religion. Because that's where I was grew up. That's where I was raised. And if you raise people in a certain way, they're going to go that way. And that's what the United States of America calls itself doing, raising African people for us to think a certain way. Who knows? If you say Jesus, if you believe in Jesus, then he was a revolutionary because he turned over the tax table. He fought. Jesus fought for the rights of people. That's the same thing we're doing, fighting for the rights of people. Again, so I want to appreciate the comment from the brother there who was speaking about reparations, and the time is now. The time is now. There's no waiting. There's no waiting to see if something changes. It's time to make the change. A song that Michael Jackson says, time to man in the mirror.
DJ Eddie,
make that change.
DJ Eddie, I'm so glad that you came to this event today, because it is really important to articulate the things that you've just said. When we talk about the situation of racism in America, and it goes back forever, it also is still continuing. And my great fear is that this new administration is bringing things back. They're already wanting to get rid of the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. They really do want to go back to antebellum period. That's their mindset. And so if we don't have this conversation among those who are willing, then it's crazy. And I appreciate your responses to this, because it is moving when people get together and have that conversation. And that's really our power in radio, is to have these conversations, to foster them, and to go deeper and wider and do it in a way that respects every single person in the room. But I want to appreciate that. And I think Michael Novick, who did make those comments before, I got to say, Michael is a good man, but he's got his hand up for another question, if you don't mind.
Well, I just wanted to add for people that we do have a report later on in today's discussion from the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Overcoming Racism and Sexism and Progressive Media Working Group that was set up a while back. And I hope people will stick around for that, because we do want to talk about action steps that people can take. And I want to let people know that locally here in LA, we have a sister, Ariana Mecca Shakur, who's with the African National Women's Organization, which is part of the Uhuru movement. I think she was busy today doing Fit to Fight, part of the Black August activities here in Southern California. But she's on the local station board of KPFK, the Pacifica station here, and pushing for the station to try to, recover from the cuts and the purges that it made. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Looking at the clock, I think it's time that we at least wrap this up. Are there any more questions for DJ Eddie?
Can I try to butt in? My name is Fernando.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm much concerned about what's really happening to the Black community. I really agree of everybody has said, we need a reparation and so forth. But I'm more concerned about the systemic problem that we have. We have criminalization of a generation, like particularly people are being imprisoned among Black. You only have about 12 to 13%. But at the same time, they cannot, because they cannot be deported, so they put them in jail. This is, whether we like it or not, this is really happening, and it's really a systemic problem that we need to resolve, because this really injustice of what's happening among our Black brother and sister and so forth. And so we really need to do something and to remedy this problem, because it's been going on for quite a long time, and I just cannot stand it anymore. I cannot stand it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you speak for so many people in the room. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Kirby.
Yes.
We really want to appreciate DJ Eddie and the African People's Socialist Party. They've really been a role model for Pacifica Fight Back. It's very rare to find an organization where where you can find white people that are willing to follow the leadership of Black people. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that's true, and we see that happening in Pacifica. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your time. I know you're very busy. There's a very important Black is Back conference going on today in New Orleans. So DJ Eddie has taken his time to share with us, and we really appreciate that, as well other people who are with us from the Uhuru movement. I have my T-shirt on, hands off Uhuru. And uh, we have speakers from KPFA scheduled, but Alex Steinberg, I think, is with us. Is Alex here? Does anybody see Alex Steinberg in the room?
Yes, he's there.
Oh, okay. And Alex is someplace, I don't know where he is. He's on the other side of the world. It's in the middle of the night. So we're going to move him up. We're bumping him up. We're giving him other side of the world privilege. And Alex, you're scheduled to talk for 10 minutes. And if you could let us know about what is going on in Pacifica Radio, the Pacifica Foundation. By the way, Alex Steinberg is on the national board, I believe.
Well, I will have to explain that a bit. That's, yeah, I don't know if I could do this in 10 minutes, but I'll give it a shot. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. Okay, what's going on at Pacifica, to put it simply, is that Pacifica has been taken over by a hostile group that now comprises a majority of its board of directors. I am a former chair of that same board of directors, but my chairmanship ended at the beginning of 2022. I was very much involved in the struggle against the hostile takeover of WBAI back in 2019. And following that, we had two different referendums by pretty much the same group that engineered the hostile takeover of WBAI. We defeated both of them. The last one was in 2021. It was called the New Day Bylaws referendum. And what happened after that was that the people behind the New Day referendum, and primarily led by someone named Jan Goodman, who is a real estate attorney from Los Angeles, who has a reputation as being a progressive and is heavily involved in Democratic Party politics. She decided that just because she lost the referendum, she said, actually, they won the referendum. The reasons for that are a little complicated, but basically, in order to win that referendum, you had to win a majority of two different classes of voters, both the listeners and the staff. Long story short, they managed to win the listener vote by 55%. Due to the fact that they had lots of resources for propaganda by emails and so on, and all sorts of other things. However, they lost the staff vote, and that was primarily due to a 99% vote against the referendum at WBAI and a 90% vote against the referendum at our sister station in Washington, D.C., WPFW. Jan Goodman and the other New Day people then said they won the referendum, and as a result, Pacifica had to go to court to get an injunction against them interfering in our affairs. And the court things dragged on, as they tend to do. And in 2023, we finally got a judgment not on everything in the case, but on the status of the referendum. And the judge at that time said without any ambiguity that the referendum had been defeated. Now, that was 2023, 2 years ago. Now, move forward 2 more years. At the beginning of 2025, the New Day aligned people managed to get something like a supermajority on the Pacifica National Board through various tactics that I won't go into. It's not that they have so huge support from the listeners, but in any case, and using their supermajority in the Pacifica National Board, they engineered what legally is called collusion. The collusion in this case being between in the legal case, it was still called Pacifica versus New Day. We had an attorney, Arthur Schwartz, who was defending Pacifica against New Day. But since Pacifica now was formally represented by this new board, the new board decided, well, why don't we just make a settlement agreement with New Day, and that way we can get the new bylaws, which are heavily undemocratic and will bring about a centralized board structure, no room for any kind of autonomy to any of our stations, and will essentially revive the kind of self-selecting board of directors that Pacifica had before the listener movement that upended that business at the beginning of this century and gave us the new bylaws that began in 2002, I believe. So they decided to change their position and instead of defending the judgment that was ruled on in 2023, they decided, well, maybe the judge had something right there, and they started making up nonsense stories that there was something wrong with the staff election at WBAI, and then the next thing they did was they fired our attorney, Arthur Schwartz, who did not want to go along with this. They brought in a new attorney, and then they did something called a, quote, mediation, which is basically the New Day people were mediating with themselves since they had basically taken over the board. And as a result of the mediation, surprise, surprise, they came out with a new set of bylaws that were pretty much 99% the New Day bylaws with a few different wrinkles to them. And they were going to present that to the court. In the meantime, those of us on the national board who opposed it, there are 7 of us that oppose this stuff. We tried to do what legally is called an intervention. And that means since we're no longer being represented by either of the two parties in the case, we asked the court to allow us to speak on behalf of the rights of all those people who voted against the referendum. And not only those who voted against the referendum, actually every single Pacifica member, because every single Pacifica member has a stake in Pacifica adhering to its own bylaws. And this board of directors just went ahead and blatantly violated the bylaws by completely rewriting everything in defiance of the only procedures that are specified for amending the bylaws that are in the bylaws. Okay, so long story short, we try to introduce what is called a motion to intervene into the court. And this went through a couple of stages. There was a hearing on July 3rd, and after 3 minutes that we got on our hearing, the judge came back and denied our motion to intervene. I won't go into all the details, but it was a completely ridiculous decision by the judge, who obviously hadn't even bothered to read our briefs. We had some very professionally polished briefs. I was technically the author, but I had some really good help from two attorneys, one of whom is a former judge who worked with me behind the scenes to work up these briefs. So what is it we're doing now? We are now going to file an appeal to that motion to intervene. And we think we have a very strong case. And we've started a legal fundraising campaign in order to pay for the attorneys we're going to hire. And that's been going very well. We now have raised over $20,000 for the legal fundraising for the appeal. And something like it's over 50 donors have contributed, most of whom have made small donations. There's a few rather large donations, but most of the donations are small. And we've gotten our war chest up to 20,000, and we're keeping going. In the meantime, the Pacifica board majority, obviously not being very happy about this, decided to retaliate, and their form of retaliation is to begin a purge throughout the network of anybody that defies them. Oh, Sally just said we're now up to 54 donors. Thank you, Sally. I guess I'm not the first victim of the purge, but I'm the first post-legal case victim of the purge. There was an earlier purge at KPFA where Elizabeth Milos and Stephen were removed from the local station boards. Anyway, so we had, it was just last week, what I call a kangaroo court, in which I was supposed to present my defense to charges that were never specifically spelled out. They said I made derogatory and false statements that injured Pacifica. Well, my statements may have been derogatory, but they were not false, and they were not injuring Pacifica. What they were doing was putting a mirror up to the faces of those people who are now today injuring Pacifica, and they obviously didn't like the way they looked. Anyway, this so-called hearing at which they voted to suspend me from the Pacifica National Board and from the WBI local station board, I am suspended until the end of October 2026, which is I believe that's 60 days before the end of my term. And the whole thing was completely ridiculous. Like I said, I had 5 minutes to prepare to answer charges that were never fully specified. And then I had another 3 minutes to conclude my remarks, which I used to finish my statement. I have circulated my statement, and you should be able to read it. I'll be glad to send it to whatever mailing list you have if you haven't seen it. And what you have to understand is that the kind of vindictive, authoritarian manner of governance that we're now seeing emerging out of the Pacifica board is a mirror image of what's going on in a larger political landscape. People who dissent, who don't want to sort of duck their heads and think that things will go away, those people are being singled out. So it's not simply me, it's my removal from the Pacifica board is kind of like a warning to anybody else who dares define this authoritarian and completely undemocratic board of directors that has absolutely nothing to do with the Pacifica mission. I would say they're very hostile to the Pacifica mission. They clearly want to bring the Pacifica into some kind of format that is closer to what NPR looks like. However, if you see what's happening to NPR, thinking that you're going to sort of moderate yourself, and that's going to protect you from the Trump dictatorship. And you're wrong. I mean, they're going after NPR. They've choked off the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This is going to have a huge impact, particularly on some of Pacifica's affiliates in the rural parts of this country. It's going to be devastating. And you're not going to be safe by ducking and thinking that if you moderate your thoughts, or if you moderate what you say, you're somehow going to be protected. You're not. So that's where we are, and as I said, the purge of myself is just the beginning. They're now also going after Donna Carter. Donna is a Pacifica board member from KPFA. She's the only KPFA national board member that is opposed to the double dealing of the Pacifica board majority. And she's being brought up on charges by her local board of directors, the LSP and KPFA. Maybe Donna might want to say a few words about that. Anyway, that's what's happening. And if you want to assist, we also need more funding for our legal case. If you want to do that, there's a URL you can go to on the web. I could put it in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud right now. It's Mighty Cause. That's one word. The word Mighty Cause.com, then slash, and then the word story, and then slash, and then the word Pacifica Democracy. That's also one word. Maybe somebody can put that on the chat screen. So that's what I have to say, and thank you for inviting me, and I'm open to questions or discussion or whatever.
Thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, we do have a few minutes for discussion, and we'd also like to have Donna Carter speak, and after she does, we'll have another victim of the purge from KPFA, Elizabeth Milos, address.
I'll be right back.
Who was that? Alex Steinberg said he'd be right back. Well, while he's away, Donna Carter, would you like to say a couple of words about your case?
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, I'm back.
Thank
Donna's
you, Alex.
on the national board, by the way.
Yeah. And the KPFA LSB, which we are those who oppose authoritarian rule of Pacifica are greatly outnumbered, I might add. And Alex just covered everything amazingly, but I would comment on my situation. Or I would say, first of all, I believe that the expulsion or suspension or whatever you want to call it is the modus operandi of New Day. I will be the fourth person to be disciplined in the last year and unable to perform my duties if I am so disciplined, I believe. Let's see. From what the charges are, it's that this vague phrase, it's in the opening of the Pacifica Bylaws about harming the network, is kind of a catch-all for we don't like you. And that's what they say about all of us who speak up. And to that I say, I'm going to say a little bit of what I'm going to say at my hearing, so it can be public because the hearing is closed. I spoke after Alex at a discussion of the bylaws at WPFW, and I didn't say a whole lot. I was the last person to speak. Well, I think Sally said something too. But what I described is how our LSB meetings are run. And I did not give an opinion. I simply described the circumscription of discussion and participation of the membership in a rather brief statement.
And the LSB is the local station board.
Right, KPFA Berkeley, right. I was very mild in my comments, and that didn't stop them from pursuing this disciplinary action. I would say not just about that, but I am familiar with authoritarianism. And when I was 10, I was in the 5th grade, and my teacher was railed against leftist right and left. So I went home for lunch to talk to my mother, and I explained what she had, the teacher had said. She says, "Well, come with me." So we headed to downtown San Francisco, where the Un-American Activities Committee was holding a hearing, which had a picket line in front of it, and there was a lot of Cal students there. And when I arrived, and I'm sorry to say I'm not happy about having been there as a child. That was an issue for me later on. They were beating the students who were in the hearing and dragging them down the long rotunda stairs, and injured many people really brutally. It was a really brutal thing with a lot of blood and gore and all of that. And so we live in difficult times now, and that's a memory that tells me a lot about what authoritarianism at its ultimate is like. I want to say, though, that those Cal students beat back the Un-American activities. Up until that time, had been individuals putting themselves up, refusing to testify and stuff. But that was the beginning of the Un-American Activities Committee, because these students put their bodies on the line, literally. So, that's the backdrop with which I come to this. I love KPFA and Pacifica, and free speech and social justice is my middle name. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. That was beautiful. Kirby, can you take over here? Is Kirby here?
I'm just trying to figure out my microphone. Yes. We've got Elizabeth, of course, in the room, and Sally's got her hand up. Michael just put his hand up, and we've also got a little bit of a conflict with time because we want to get Mimi Rosenberg in to introduce the Ida B. Wells organization before she has to leave. So we had a little bit of a slushy point.
Oh, wow. Wow. Did I make a scheduling error there? Was Mimi going to talk after DJ Eddie?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. But Alex was unavailable. Okay. Well, Mimi, can you hold on for another 5 minutes, or do you have to go right away?
Yeah, I can hold on.
Okay. Sorry. Kirby?
Well, we've got some nice flow with this conversation about the purging, but I think we can I think we could probably circle back to it in 7 minutes.
Yeah, you want to let Mimi speak first, because it is related to what's going on in Pacifica.
Yeah, they all, like the COVID virus, they glob on all these problems, grab onto each other, so we can hit them with one bat. So can we do that?
Yes, if I apologize to the people who've been waiting to speak, but if you don't mind, I know Mimi's in a hurry, so.
Well, it's not that I'm in a hurry. I was scheduled, and this.
I know, yes.
So if you want other people to go, and we can forego, and I can just put in the chat, whatever.
No.
Go ahead, Mimi.
You have an important message for us, so please share it with us. And I apologize for our lack of coordination.
It just proves we're not bots.
Right.
All right. Well, first of all, I was enormously inspired by the backdrop in a number of the people's portraits there, which included Fidel Castro and Assata Shakur and Malcolm X. And I will take that, and I will take the inspiration from DJ Eddie and Black Power Radio. And with that, also the message from Alex Steinberg that one cannot capitulate one's principles. You know, comrades, and I consider you all comrades and truth tellers and defenders of the people. This really is a period where there has to be a call to arms. And in the name of Ida B. Wells Media Defense Network, for whom I'm speaking, we carry the name of Ida B. Wells like a torch in the dark because she turned journalism into a weapon of justice, illuminating the horrors of lynching, the repression, shadows of repression. And in her spirit, we speak, we resist, we rise against the silent kills and the lies that seek to bury truth. That's what Alex Steinberg was speaking about. That's what DJ Eddie was speaking about. And we stand on a precipice. The air is thick with the stench of repression. The Trumpian forces are not just knocking. Hear that, Pacifica. They are inside the gates. And the Democratic Party helped usher them in. They are rewriting the rules of engagement now, criminalizing dissent and weaponizing the media to serve the state. But let us be clear, this is not new. This is the old playbook of fascism, and it's dusted off and digitized. And history has taught us capitulation never worked. During the McCarthy era, the House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, demanded loyalty oaths and blacklisted artists and silenced journalists. Many in Hollywood and the press, they went along. They censored themselves. They betrayed their colleagues. They traded principles for survival, and in so doing, they fed the beast. The few who resisted, Paul Robeson, Alton Trumbo, they did. They paid dearly. They stood tall, and history remembers them not as traitors, but as heroes. In Germany, the Social Democrats of the Weimar Republic chose compromise over confrontation. They refused to unite with communists to resist Hitler's rise. They clung to parliamentary norms while fascists stormed the streets. Their caution allowed the Nazis to seize power, and they were among the first to be banned. And in France, going back to 1894, Captain Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer, was falsely accused of treason. The military, the courts, and the press colluded to convict him, not because of evidence, but because of anti-Semitism. The machinery of the state was mobilized to destroy an innocent man. But then came resistance. Émile Zola, one of France's most prominent writers, published his legendary letter, J'accuse, in a major newspaper, denouncing the government, the military, the judiciary. He risked prison. He was vilified, but he stood firm. And his act of press defiance cracked the foundations of injustice. It led to Dreyfus's exoneration. Lesson: capitulation is not strategy, it is surrender. Resistance is not just moral, it is strategic. We must look inward. Pacifica, once a sanctuary for radical thought, now risks becoming a fortress of hierarchy and exclusion. When we fail to include the most revolutionary sectors, Black, brown, poor, disabled, queer, trans, we do not just fail morally, we fail strategically. We create the conditions for fascism to fester, to become our own Achilles heel. White supremacy within our ranks is not just a contradiction, it is a death sentence. We must democratize our governance. We must dismantle hierarchy. We must center diversity and equity and inclusion, not as buzzwords, but as battle cries, because the press is not neutral, it's strategic. That is why every dictator from Hitler to Pinochet to Trump seeks to control it. So that the press shapes the narrative and the narrative shapes the people. But there is another path, and that is the path of resistance. And that was elaborated on by Eddie. That was elaborated on by Alex, the path of resistance. Pacifica Radio, in its early years, refused corporate sponsorship. It aired anti-war programming during the Korean Vietnam Wars, even under threat then of license revocation. KPFA, its Berkeley station, stood firm against pressure to fire anti-war staff and gave voice to Black Panthers, feminist radicals, and draft resistors. Were raided, they were surveilled, but never silenced. And we say that today. Radio Free Dixie by Robert F. Williams from exile in Cuba broadcast revolutionary messages to Black Americans in the South, defying both U.S. censorship and white supremacist violence. It was pirate radio with a purpose: liberation. Radio Freedom, voice of the African National Congress, broadcast from exile to challenge apartheid propaganda. Despite jamming, raids, and assassinations, it kept the flames of resistance alive. Pacifica, can you say that? These examples show media resistance is not just symbolic. Again, it's strategic. When journalists, broadcasters refuse to be mouthpieces for power, become catalysts for change. They protect dissent, they amplify truth, they build solidarity across borders. Capitulation, on the other hand, leads to erasure. It silences the oppressed. It normalizes fascism. It makes us complicit. The press is the first target of dictators because it is the most dangerous weapon of the people. That's why the Ida B. Wells Media Defense Network, a project of Pacifica Fight Back, is launching the National Pledge of Resistance, a bold commitment to defend press freedom and protect independent media from authoritarian repression. As Trump and his allies escalate attacks on dissent, targeting journalists, community broadcasters, and public media, we refuse to be silenced. We pledge to resist censorship, surveillance, political intimidation, and to safeguard the right to speak truth to power. Defending the press is defending democracy. Defending Black Power Radio is defending democracy. We stand with Black Power Radio and demand Pacific amplify oppressed voices. We fight against the killing of Palestinian journalists, the silencing of prison press, and the erasure of radical voices, which Pacifica did to Mumia Abu-Jamal, one of the most profound journalists in the world. We also confront internal failures. Hear that, Pacifica. Hierarchies, lack of accountability and transparency, democratic and inclusive, diverse, equitable, inclusion in government. That's what we demand. All forms of governance, decision-making, and administration. We will not capitulate to white supremacy that weakens our institutions and betrays our communities. And if people don't know, already there is the attack on the limited diversity that we have by virtue of the FCC conducting an audit, which is a way to get to this at one of our, in effect, repeater stations of the KPFA. So make resistance real. We are developing as well. We sound the alarm, a media resistance manual for non-cooperation and protection. This guide will offer ideological clarity and practical tools for media workers, emergency protocols, legal strategies, and alliance building tactics to defend staff and listeners and archives from government intrusion. Media is a weapon of truth, liberation. In the spirit of Ida B. Wells, who used the press to expose lynching and challenge power, we pledged to never surrender our voice. We will not collaborate with oppression, normalize martial law, self-censor to appease the powerful, or sanitize fascism. We will amplify dissent, whistleblowers, speak the unspeakable, because silence is complicity, and complicity is this is our moment. It must be. Let us not be the generation that folded. Let us not be the generation that anything fought back. When we're under attack, what do? Fight back, fight back. That is where we are, to build a media network rooted in justice, powered by the people, and fearless in its pursuit of truth. Yes, we take our name from Ida B. Wells, the fearless journalist, anti-lynching crusader, and truth teller who used the press as a sword against white supremacy and state violence. She understood the stakes. She understood the power. She left us this charge. The people must know before they can act, and there is no educator to compare with the press. Let that be our fire. Let that be our resistance. And we encourage people to work with us and to remember that we will be the fiercest critics of the fascism that has been ushered in and seeks to destroy independent media and political expression that is dissonant against the state, against the imperial designs of the capitalist plutocracy. However, if we do that without self-critique and taking our institutions, if we do not deal with white supremacy, and if we do not deal with it in such a way so that the governance belongs to the people, we are capitulationists, and we will not do that either to keep our precious Pacifica, and we certainly won't do that in what must be now an all hands on deck to fight fascism. And I thank you. And for people who are interested in finding out more or working with the Ida B. Wells Project, you can reach me at Mimi, M-I-M-I, simple, M-I-M-I, WBAI radio at gmail.com. And I think this encompasses everything that Alex, that Donna was saying, that DJ Eddie is, because this is about independent media. And very lastly, I must say, I saw Elizabeth Milos wearing a keffiyeh. I am wearing a keffiyeh too. We are operating in the middle of a genocide, ethnocide, and ecocide in real time. They just killed 5 truth tellers, the eyes and the ears of the world in Gaza City, and there are no other Palestinian journalists in Gaza City as the onslaught continues. So whatever we do, and that's why we need Pacificas, honest and inclusive Pacificas. That's why we need Black Power Radio and others. And that's why we need the Mahmoud Khalils and the voices of all those courageous students who have been speaking out before Columbia University turned itself into what is now called Vichy on the Hudson. We need your voice and we need to be strong. Again, let that be our fire. Let that be our resistance as it was in the name of Ida B. Wells. And I thank you for this opportunity. And I thank you for the work that you continue to all do. Power indeed to the people, and let's make it so. An egalitarian power to the people.
Thank you, Mimi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mimi. That was amazing. And you saw it here first, folks. That amazing Ida B. Wells Media Defense Network actually started at a Pacifica Fight Back town hall. So, we're on the move and things are happening. Kirby, can I ask you to handle the Q&A? And we haven't forgotten about Elizabeth Milos.
Okay, super. I'll take a look in the Q&A. And yes, Elizabeth has her hand up, Sally and Michael. I'm not sure if any of these are responses to Mimi. We can sort that out, but I think it's all still about the purges, but those are the hands that are up.
Well, if I may, I think we should move on so that all these speakers have an opportunity to present.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mimi. Okay, so Elizabeth, I believe that you're the next on deck.
Yes, hold on, let me get myself. Thank you so much for inviting us, and all these amazing people who are organizing for media democracy. I wanted to mention there's so many things to unpack here, and I'm going to try to do it with the time frame that we have. But I think that it's really worth mentioning that there has been collusion for quite some time now. Collusion that Alex Steinberg was alluding to with regard to the lawsuit was just the culmination of this collusion that had been going on for quite some time within the so-called progressives of KPFA in the LSB KPFA, who call themselves KPFA protectors. For example, $80,000 was sent to the lawyers to defend the illegal closure of WBAI by the then executive director, Vernil. There was also collusion. I mean, all of this was proven with wires that were sent, copies of wires that were sent. There was also, for example, the examples abound, honestly. The Maria Negrete deposition. Maria Negrete is the business manager, and when the Vernil won his award for so-called slander, the award was for $300,000, and Arthur Schwartz, who was representing Pacifica at the time, put in an ex parte petition to delay the award because there was still some legal decisions that were down the road regarding that award that had still not been decided upon. But Maria Negrete decided, I'm not sure who decided it, but she took part in a deposition against this delay in the award of $300,000. I assume that they maybe thought it was going to come out of the coffers of Pacifica. Instead, the money came out of KPFA, and then they made a big stink about it, basically accusing Pacifica of stealing money of the $300,000 from KPFA, when in fact it was their own doing. It was a product of their own doing. Now, I was purged at the beginning. I was kicked off in October 2020. I'm sorry, yeah, October 2022, and placed back on by then majority decision of the PMB in January 2023, and then Steve and I both got purged a year later. In a sham trial, the same kind of situation that Alex Steinberg was describing, but fraught with so many violations, not only of Robert's rules, but of the existing bylaws. The fact that now these new bylaws that they have imposed have created, have instituted a standing committee of what's called an ethics committee, which basically is the same thing as the House Un-American Activities Committee. It's the same damn thing. In fact, Christina Huggins, who wasn't even an LSP member, according to the previous bylaws, that it allowed her to be an officer, but not a chair or a vice chair at the time. She presided over this trial, even though she could not even be a chair or was not even an LSB member. The accusations that were made were primarily because we were exposing the fact, Steve, myself, and other members of Rescue Pacifica have continuously gone to the KPFA building and have done, rallies or basically speakouts, which we have recorded, where we have denounced, for example, the other issue of the FCC petition to deny that was put forth by Sherry Gendelman, supported by Donald Goldmacher. And this was a petition to deny the renewal of the license of WBAI, a sister station, putting a serious asset of Pacifica at risk, and now has put it at risk of not even having at risk of losing its renewal. The renewal was supposed to be for an 8-year renewal, but instead was a 2-year renewal. Now with a Trump majority, they're sitting ducks. That broadcast license is a sitting duck. And this was foreseeable. This was something that did not have to happen, but it was an all-out attack by the members of the Democratic Party that did not want any voices besides their own voices regarding what's going on in the media world, what's going on in the United States, and what's going on in Pacifica and internationally. In fact, this KPFA-LSB voted down twice resolutions on Gaza to stop the genocide, twice, in March 2023 and in May 2023. They've it's not even on KPFTX, by the way. They attacked a Native American staff member, Frank Sterling, when he participated as a journalist and as a community member against a cop killer. I'm sorry, against a killer cop, a cop who had been implicated in as a general, as the chief of police during the killing of a Guatemalan immigrant in San Francisco, and there was a Back the Blue event in the support of this person, and there was a demonstration against that, and he was accused of attacking the police officer when he didn't. And in fact, the accusations that they made against me of supposedly attacking a quote unquote staff member, which was actually Maria Negrete, who is in management, that same rule apparently does not apply to Sharon Adams, who basically in open meeting accused Frank Sterling of having attacked a police officer in an open meeting of the LSB. And then 1 year later, when his case was actually dismissed for lack of merit, she still would not recognize, and nobody would recognize there in that LSB meeting, that they had made a mistake and offer an apology to him. Instead, Fred Dodsworth doubled down on the accusation. So none of these rules seem to apply to them. Now, one of the things that we need to do, I think, is we need to actually make a call to action and go in this latest round of attacks against Alex Steinberg, against Donna Carter. We need to make a statement and go directly to the stations and make press conference on all of the 5 stations and denounce Pacifica for what it's doing. This purging is a Trumpite type purging. It is absolutely it's not something that we should stay quiet about, and we need to do it actively with press conferences and with rallies in front of the stations like we did before. They falsely accused Steve of having attacked Maria Negrete, by the way. She was taking down a poster from the wall, and Steve was trying to get a hold of the poster, and all he did was brush by her hand in one moment, and that's what she considered assault. They didn't even have the police report available. They did not allow us to interview her as our witness, as both, basically because she was presenting false information and false witness. They did not allow any of the due processes that you would normally be allowed to have in this kind of accusation, and they literally slandered us in terms of because of the accusations that they made against us.
This is a lot of stuff to take note of, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of things, and we really need to name names because naming, all of this is documented. There's no mistake about this thing. They've had Ian Masters, who has been supporting the genocide by statements that he made about people that believe that support Palestine are dupes, and he's been pro-war. He's presenting things on pro-war on the air. After we presented our issues regarding the electronic intifada, we wanted a regular show of the electronic intifada to be aired on KPFA. Now they have it once a week, apparently. They did that. There has been some shows regarding the issue in Gaza now, but only after we have been exposing this for quite some time. They had, hypocritically, they had Chris Hedges come to an event for fundraising for KPFA, but they don't have the Chris Hedges show on. You know, I mean, these people are duplicitous. They have been colluding against media democracy for quite some time and against free speech. And in fact, regarding wearing the keffiyeh, I've been attacked in my own job for wearing a keffiyeh where at UCSF. So we're dealing with an environment where people are supposedly in favor of DEI talk. I mean, we even had a so-called training on harassment and bullying, where the main bullier, Fred Dodsworth, who uses foul language against people all the time, wasn't even there. And we were gaslighted by this trainer talking about DEI when they voted against Palestine, when they're not allowing any kind of dissent whatsoever. They mute people all the time. This is the antithesis of anything that stands up for democracy in media. And they're completely Trumpite, basically.
You laid out some pretty good calls to action too in this, and these are the things that we, as a group, we really do need to focus on, because there's not. We don't. Yes.
I think September 18th, for example, would be a good day. I believe that the 19th is the day where Donna is going to be subjected to this next this so-called sham trial. I think we need to do something on September 18th and expose their ass. Honestly, this needs to. Excuse my language. I'm sorry, but we really do need to expose them. And at this point, we don't have anything to lose. Me and Steve are continuing under suspension. By the way, there's nothing that says that we could be suspended under the previous bylaws. There's no suspension. You can either expel or not expel with a 2/3 majority. There's nothing that says you could be suspended. You know.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I just want to make one small correction. You misspoke about Ian Masters. He didn't say that people who supported Palestine were dupes. He said that Mumia Abu-Jamal was guilty.
You're right.
And anybody who supported Mumia Abu-Jamal, meaning us, are dupes.
Right. Thank you so much for making that correction.
He gets 9 hours a week. He gets 9 hours a week. And,
Exactly.
um,
Tom Hartman was the one that said that something about Palestinians. I think it was Tom Hartman. I'm not sure. I cannot remember.
We have so many winners.
now, Kirby, let me ask you: Are we going to go on and hear from Anthony Fest or
I think Steve is here.
Steve Zeltzer is here?
I think he's on the phone. Yeah, he's connected via phone today. I think
No,
because he's
I'm
all
on
the
my-
way in.
I'm on my computer.
Oh, okay. So, please, if you can take a few minutes, Steve.
Okay, well, I'm glad that we're having this discussion, and we do need a united front against the attack on Pacifica and the media. But I think we have to put this in the framework of what's going on. We have a fascist government that is actually preparing military occupation of cities, not only Washington, D.C., but Oakland, Chicago. We're talking about a threat of martial law. And in relationship to that, I mean, Pacifica should be leading the fight against this fascist government. Instead, as Lisa pointed out, they've engaged in a Trumpite witch hunt to get rid of people who are critical of what they're doing. And we were central in KPFA and pushing for defense of Mumia Abu Jamal, of other whistleblowers, and also against the attack on journalists, Palestinian journalists. We had a resolution which they rejected, this local station board. So what you have is a corporate cabal which have taken over, and I think that, in my view, the shutdown of WBAI was an example of what they want to do. They want to turn the stations into basically appendages of KPFA, where it's a pro-corporate, pro-democratic party, pro-imperialist propagandist on, like Brian Edward Teager, who's on the air, with these institutes, foundations that he has as guests who are basically openly supporting U.S. imperialism on the air. So that's what we're talking about. And I think that their undemocratic and is Trumpite effort to remove any critical people on the board needs to be challenged. And I think that's why we're proposing that there be a national day of action on September the 18th. We plan to have a press conference and rally at KPFA, the station, to raise it. Most listeners of KPFA do not know what's going on in the station. Unfortunately, they have excluded any kind of independent voice, and most people think that KPFA is a real challenge. But when it runs as a corporate agenda, when they exclude people, when they remove programmers and target programmers like Frank Sterling, who's been targeted, and they get away with it without people knowing. So I would urge this meeting and the organizations that support this to have a day of action nationally, and to get the documentation together about what they've done, the violation of the bylaws, the basic political crimes they've committed in removing people who are critical of their, the malfeasance of them. And frankly, from my own point of view, when they illegally shut down WBAI, I would have been in favor of criminal prosecution of them, saying they should be criminally prosecuted. What they did was illegal, and people on the board prevented the WBAI delegates from voting to allow that to happen. So it was a real attack on democratic rights and free speech radio. And I think that the kind of racist attacks going on in this country, homophobic attacks, attacks against workers, attacks against federal workers, busting of unions is going to grow. We're facing a very radical, dangerous situation, and protecting Pacifica is necessary, and linking up with the other attacks, because they're going to be shutting down other TV and radio stations. I mean, Trump is going to close down stations that challenge him. He says he wants to get rid of all the communists. He accuses the Democrats of being communist. But as far as these fascists who run the country now, anyone who opposes them is a communist. That's what they're saying. So it's a very dangerous time, and it's something that we have to fight against and also fight for a united front to protect the media and protect working people and blacks and browns and other people who are under attack.
Thank you, Steve. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Now, we were supposed to take a few questions after Alex's talk, and perhaps we can just take a couple before we move on to Alex Steinberg, if you don't mind, Kirby.
Sure, we've got 3 hands up. That is Sally, Michael Novick, and Alex has his hand up.
Oh, great. Okay, so we'll take those 3 and then we'll move on to Anthony Fest. Thank you, Anthony. You're so patient.
Okay. So who would you like first, Sheila? Oh, Sally, you want to go? Sally's unmuted.
Quickly, to its credit, Pacifica did pass a resolution on Gaza early on, and the WBAI LSB supported it. Hasn't said anything since, though, so the majority overreach on the PNB is absurd. As one of the minority, we sit there and it's pretty clear that the majority has discussed what they're going to do in advance. They push it through 13-7, 14-7, it's wild. Robert's rule requires that most votes be taken in open session. Even if the discussion happens in executive session, then you go back to open session and put the vote on the record. They don't do that. They keep the votes in executive session, so you can't talk about it. Not all of them, but too damn many. So that's just, and we finally do have some LSB reports to listeners coming up on WBAI radio. The first one, I believe, is August 30th at noon. And it's 2 hours. I will be one of the 6 people speaking. Check.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Sally. Michael.
A couple of things. I wanted to reiterate what Sheila pointed out, that the Ida B. Wells Media Defense Network grew out of a working group that was established at a previous Pacifica Fight Back Town Hall. We do have several other working groups that are presenting today, including the Finances Working Group, the Bylaws and Governance Working Group, and the DEI Overcoming Racism and Sexism Progressive Media Working Group. And so all of those are looking for people to get involved as well in ongoing work coming off this town hall. You'll be hearing from them very shortly, Anthony from the Bylaws Group, and I believe Kamau Harris from the Finances Group, and so on. So the other thing I wanted to mention is just the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. KPFK in 2023 and 2024, we ran Radio Free Palestine, 24 hours of programming developed internationally in support of Palestine. This year, they did not run it at all. Last 2 years, we contributed segments to it that were incorporated into the international broadcast. This year, not. And that's the kind of, I guess the purging of the board members represents the silencing of the membership, but it also represents an attempt to purge the airwaves of the content they don't want to hear. And that's why it's so critical that we reverse these anti-democratic changes and push for a Pacifica that really meets the needs of the times that Steve outlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Alex, I don't know if you were commenting on yourself or a new comment, but please.
Yeah, it's very late for me, so I just wanted to say a few words before I left. I'm directing my words to my fellow or my former fellow members of the Pacifica National Board and of all the LSBs. Do not normalize this new authoritarian Pacifica National Board and the not so new authoritarian KPFA local station board and other LSBs. Do not normalize them. Don't just sit silently by when the chair says this is the way it's gonna be, and you cannot say you cannot object. We're going to shut you down. Don't normalize them. Object as much as you can. Do whatever you can. Use whatever tactics you can to call them out and call them out by name. And I urge everyone throughout the network to do that. Not only, of course, board members, but those of you listeners who get to make comments during the public part of the LSB meetings, for instance, you should be doing that too. Do not normalize this board. And I've seen a disturbing tendency on the part of some of my fellow board members to do that. Not that they are joining them, but they are not objecting or not objecting very loudly. Object very loudly, please. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Elizabeth's got her hand up, and then Sheila, that is the last of the hands up in this period. Oh, an attendee does too, and I'd love to hear from the attendee we haven't heard from. And in fact, Elizabeth, can we go to attendee first, and then thank you so much. Attendee, you have the mic. We're not hearing anything though. You don't appear to be muted. Attendee, let's see. For all electronic purposes, all the signs say go.
They may not realize they're attendee because they had their name as Michael Novick and I changed it to attendee. So
Oh,
Sorry.
if it wasn't Michael Novick. So
If you got your hand up and we don't know who you are, please, you have the mic. Anyone there that's just dying to say something?
okay, let's move on, Kirby.
yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth, you've got the mic.
Yeah, I think we need to, again, what Steve was mentioning about the possible martial law issues, the issues having to do with a possible enactment of the Article 5 convention, where the Republicans need 2/3 vote majority of all the legislatures in order to actually change the Constitution. And somebody mentioned that they really want to go back to the antebellum. Yeah, that's exactly what that seems to be what they're planning on doing. Because one of the main issues that they want to get rid of is the birthright, and the birthright citizenship. So I think that being within our own little LSB groups and calling up on the phone and doing all that is very important. But I think that we also need to set the stage for moving things along and lifting up voices that are calling for a general strike in this country and are calling for alternative types of organizing and groups that have been organizing for liberation for quite some time. And I'm happy to see that we had DJ Eddie and that we've been also covering the Uhuru. And also we should set an example in the way we treat each other in all of these different LSBs, because we cannot claim to be pro-democracy and pro-media democracy and pro-free speech if we are muting other people within our own LSBs. And here I'm not talking about KPFA, because I know the KPFA protectors have nothing to do with us. You know, I'm talking about things that I've heard happening in other stations within people who are also opposed to New Day and also opposed to what KPFA protectors are doing, and yet don't seem to respect different voices. And so we need to set the standard and show by example. I'm very happy to see all of these different things happening, especially with what Mimi talked about and what the Ida Wells group. And I also think that doing the lawsuit is important. But as we've learned from history, things change because people actually are activated and moved beyond, and then it reflects itself in the legal. It's not the other way around. Things do not get resolved by legal means necessarily, but rather by action and by mobilization. and we're facing fascism. So we need to also call out the unions that have been collaborating with this, such as the KPFA union, which has been silent on the issue of Gaza, and as far as I know, and has unfortunately also been silent in the attack against the staff votes of WBAI, which Jan Goodman attacked, basically with this new settlement, disregarding the vote that had been taken by the staff members and calling into question the voting rights of these staff members at WBAI who voted against the amendments to the bylaws. I mean, we really do have a lot to work on, and that means we need to fight as much as we can.
Thanks, Elizabeth. We do have a couple of the work groups that Michael mentioned. If as anyone listens to this conversation, and if you think that you can pour your issue into any of those work groups, please do. Sheila, we've got a couple
Yeah.
minutes.
Well, we do have to move on to Anthony Fest. He's going to be speaking about the bylaws. If people can hold on to their questions, they might be answered by Anthony Fest.
Hey, yeah, thanks. I'm an LSB member at KPFA representing the staff. I've been on staff for, can't believe it, but 31 years. I did the news, the Sunday news for many years and hosted a talk show. Now I'm doing technical production for a couple of shows. I'm proud to say that many years ago I had the gentleman from well, I'll come back to that in a moment. Anyway, the bylaws. I guess everybody knows probably about the protests in 1999 at KPFA against the previous takeover attempt, which led to lawsuits and the eventual institution of new bylaws in 2003. And they've been amended with minor matters since then. I think most recently amended in 2020. But these new day bylaws basically turn everything upside down. The advocates of centralization tried once. They called it Pacifica restructuring. That was defeated by the listeners and the staff. So they came back later under a catchier name, New Day Pacifica. That was passed by listeners, but again, defeated by staff. And there was several years of litigation. And most recently, since they now have a majority on the national board, as we were told, they negotiated with themselves and settled with themselves. New Day versus Pacifica was no longer an adversarial proceeding. So they settled with themselves to put these bylaws into effect. Okay, so what do? They take away most elements of local control. The 2003 bylaws, I would say, struck a balance between local control and national oversight, because the national board is the official board of directors of the foundation. But the hiring process for a station manager would begin at the local board. That would recruit and interview applicants, and then the executive director would make the final decision from a list of finalists. But now, under New Day, that authority is being moved entirely to the national level. If listeners or staff at a station are unhappy with the general manager, they have no say about that. If there's a vacancy, they have no role in filling it. It's all done at the national level by the executive director, who in turn reports to the national board. I would say in a governmental analogy, it's like the president appointing the mayors of cities, which doesn't make much sense. Even if you had a good president, you don't need a president appointing the mayor of LA or the mayor of Omaha. The people of those cities should elect their mayors and their city councils. Oh, also the local boards lose control over finances. They don't get to review and approve with modifications if necessary the management's proposed budget. That's all done at the national level now. And what happened under the 2003 bylaws was that the local boards were the foundation of the national boards. Each of the 5 local boards would send 4 of its members to the national board, and so 20 of the 22 national board members were also local board members from the 5 stations. That's being turned upside down. Under the New Day rules, they'll be completely separate. National board and local board will be completely separate. You won't even be able to run for the national board and the local board at the same time. You have to choose one. So obviously, that seems to be a potential for conflict there between the local and the national, because there'll be no interchange institutionally between the two. If the local board members elected by the local listeners don't like what their manager is doing, they'll have no recourse. If it comes to programming issue, all they can do is issue an advisory opinion. They won't be able to change anything. If it's about finances, they have no authority. So, and that manager, of course, they had no role in choosing. Also, these new rules, we lose essentially all of proportional representation, which was a vital way of ensuring that multiple points of view were represented on the boards. It's very clever what they've done. There'll be 4 so-called national seats on the PNB, elected by all the subscribers and all the staff voting as a unit. But each of those positions is also chair or vice chair, secretary, etc. So each of those, if I read it right, will be elected individually. So that means there won't be proportional representation in the electing of those seats, because each one will be a separate office. So if the votes are tallied separately, then each one is separate. So the odds are that if you've got a faction that can muster the votes to fill one of those seats, they'll probably be able to muster the votes to fill all 4, because people will be voting by blocks. If they look at campaign email or something, it'll say vote for this person for chair, this person for vice chair, etc. Had proportional representation still been in place, we'd have probably out of 4 at least one person from a non-majority faction. But that will no longer be present under the new New Day rules. And there's much. Oh, I should mention this too. If you want to run for one of those so-called national seats, you need to gather 100 nominating signatures. Do you know 100 other listeners at your radio station? Previously, you needed 15 to run for a seat on your local station board. Now that's been up to 100 for those premier positions. How is a radio listener supposed to know 100 other listeners? Radio is still mostly a one-way medium, so you could be listening, but you don't know who else is listening, and you don't know how to reach them. So it's not like social media. So it's obviously tilting the election process in favor of people who are already in an electoral faction and can gather scores of signatures by way of an email list. I guess I'm over time already, but there's another thing that needs to be mentioned, and that's what I have dubbed the the crony clause for the local station boards will be just, the boards will be downsized from 24 to 13, and only 7 of the 13 will be elected. You know, 5 by listeners, 2 by staff, but about the other 6, well, the 7 get to choose the other 6. So nearly half of each local station board will be unelected. There'll be people that those who were elected decide to appoint. So that's why I'm calling it the crony clause. They'll appoint their friends and allies who will never have to even go to the bother of running for a seat. So that's some of what's wrong with the new bylaws. Also, the role of staff, of station workers is being diminished. There's a smaller percentage of both national board and local board. And the most peculiar thing of all, I would say the crony clause is the most undemocratic feature of all, but the most peculiar of all is regarding staff at the national board. It's got 5 statements, but there'll be 2 staff seats on the national board. So at a minimum, 3 stations are going to go unrepresented. Or if you are a staff representative, you'll have to be incredibly conscientious to try to represent the interests of more than one station's staff on the national board. Now, I, for example, am at KPFA, the Berkeley station. How am I supposed to know what the issues are in Houston or Washington? I mean, it's difficult enough keeping up with what's going on at KPFK, the other California station. How am I to know what's going on at the other coast when I haven't even visited those stations? So it's clearly a diminishing of the influence of staff, in general, both at the national and the local levels. So, quick summary: these new bylaws, centralize power in the national board, remove most of the authority, the important authority that the local boards had. They cut the connection between local and the national. So I would say creating a condition where there's have to be a lot of conflict between the two. But of course, the national can always prevail if it wants to, because it has the authority. And the electoral processes are changed to reduce proportional representation and make it easier for one faction to dominate. So all in all, it's a very serious loss of the democratic principles that were embodied in the 2003 bylaws that people fought so energetically for around the network. And of course, at least at KPFA, even under the previous bylaws, the board wasn't following them. They weren't doing evaluations of the general manager the way they were supposed to. I think one in a 9-year tenure, our previous GM was evaluated once. So having good bylaws didn't mean that your board was going to follow them. But the trouble with these new day bylaws is they now institutionalize all that was wrong in the conduct of boards that weren't following the previous bylaws. So that's it in a nutshell. Take questions if people want.
Gee, thank you, Anthony. That was really clear. It reminded me, I guess I had kind of forgotten a lot of stuff. My brain was like in a bylaws fog. Not my favorite subject, bylaws, but you made it really clear what's going on. It's really insidious. Should we move on, Kirby, to our committee reports and then end up with a big Q&A session?
Oh, that's such a tussle, huh? 6 of one, half dozen of the other. We do have some hands up. We did have some hands up before. I'm of the mind to let those questions come through while they're still kind of fresh. And then
okay.
Our committee.
How many hands do we have up?
Well, so we've had some come up that were taken down, but I do remember my friend Fernando had his hand up. Rachel Barr has her hand up, and let's see. I think those are the two. Oh, I forgot my friend Charlie Wilkin has his hand up too. So,
Okay, so let's take those three. How about that?
Okay, and another one came up from Nancy. So let's go in the order. I don't know, Fernando, you had your hand up and took it down. Do you still have a question or comment?
You're talking about me, Fernando?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I'll try my best. Okay, clearly, they're trying to silence the KPFK, particularly the anti the anti-imperialist voices in this country, and that's how important is KPFK. And it's the same thing like how they treated the immigrant itself. You know, people are getting deported without due process of the law. And the same thing, what's happening with KPFK. I mean, they're just treating you like, or at least us, they're treating us like we don't have no right. And it's really sad, you know. And I think we have to go back to who's the power behind this. Clearly, the liberals and the Democrats are behind this, and of course, the Trump administration is also maybe so glad to demise the progressive voices, or at least the anti-imperialist voices. And so let me just put it right there, you know.
Agreed. Next, Kirby.
Thank you very much. So next would be Rachel, then Charlie, and then Nancy on the phone. So Rachel, thanks for waiting.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirby. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm from BAI. I've been associated with them for like 46 years. I work there, I volunteer there, I help produce 2 programs. One of those programs, the interim general manager of BAI said about a year ago in public, and there were a few other producers at this event.
I'm not sure.
Where he said that, can someone mute?
Thank you.
He made a public announcement at a memorial for Sally O'Brien, who produced Cuban Focus, and he made a public statement that said he was going to put that program back on the air. I've been letting him know that he needs to keep his promises. So I think that Labor Day is coming up in about a week or so. So I think before this meeting ends this evening, or whatever you want to call it, that we need to really start talking about some actions that we're gonna take at each of our stations. And I think a really good day for that would be Labor Day, because this has direct connection to labor. So is there a time on which this meeting is going to close, like officially for the evening? It's 8 o'clock in New York City.
8 o'clock.
Okay, so that means that since it's ending at 8 p.m. New York City time, we need to start talking about some actions soon. So I didn't really have any questions. I just wanted to let people know that I'm deeply, deeply concerned about the state of Pacifica, but of course the rest of the world. And this is our time. If not now, we got to strike it rich. Thank you for listening. I'm going to lower my hand.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic. Charlie Wilkin.
Yeah, I was inspired by Elizabeth saying that we need to reach out beyond this group too. And I just wanted to share what I've been doing. It's been sad since Michael Novick left KPFK, but I'm the operations manager and I keep things running around there. So one of my experiments has been to do a TikTok account for the station, which I believe TikTok is becoming so important to communication amongst activist groups right now. And so what I've discovered in the year that I've done this, and especially in the last 2 months, organizations and leadership is emerging on TikTok, especially what's called TikTok Live. And there's like 50 or people that I follow on speaking Spanish, telling where the attacks are happening in Los Angeles, getting other people out there, helping to communicate all the attacks that are happening. Also, there's emerging leaders, like there's a group called LA Taco that used to be a show about where the best tacos are in LA County and Orange County. They're now covering, they have a staff of 8 or 10 covering the attacks all over the city. They give a daily report. And I've been promoting them on the KPFK Media One is the name of our, I'll put it in the chat, KPFK Media One. I've been promoting this, you know, the emerging leadership that we would like to have on our KPFK shows or our Pacifica shows. And so really, if you want to get inspired by people power, TikTok right now is just incredible for that emerging power. And that's all I wanted to, I'll put the name of our TikTok in the chat so you can see what I'm doing there.
Great.
Great. Charlie, thank you. You know, I just noticed that we have Kamau Harris here from WPFW.
Oh, wonderful.
And if he is willing, he could give us a brief report on the way he sees things, if he feels like it. I think we've
Hey, good afternoon and good evening to folks. I don't know if this is the proper time because I was going to defer. There's a finance working group that I've been trying to attend. I have missed a few of the meetings that have happened recently. I know Charlie's on there. I don't think Bella's here tonight. I believe Sally might be on that committee also, or that working group. Did you all want to talk about that real quick? Or did you want me to give kind of like a general what's happening at in DC? Would you want it, where do you want to go with that?
Maybe both.
Both?
You know, I mean, DC is critical with all the National Guard troops being sent there, but the finance also, I think, is of interest.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So I'll do that, and then I'll pass the baton to folks who have been a little bit more intimate with finance. So we had our last LSB meeting on the 13th, and my strategy around being in the chair seat, and I want to kind of get feedback from folks if this works, is to, or if they feel like it's something else can be instituted, is to try and have these bylaws on the agenda each and every month in a fashion that says, hey, look at this new piece of it, and make sure people are aware. And I'm doing kind of couching that in a way to say, let's prepare ourselves for this new set of bylaws. What I'm hoping, what I think it's going to generate is a much more, an open session, obviously, a much more like what's happening kind of question, and therefore kind of spreading the news, if you will, to the much larger public, or at least those who are interested in that meeting at the time, what the pieces to the puzzle are, and not that the chair can necessarily say this, but I mean, you know, you all can correct me, I'm relatively new at it, but that folks in that are on the LSB currently can put their voices up and say, hey, these things need to be resisted, here's why, so on and so forth. And I think that's one of the strategies in DC that we're trying to employ to get the word out. On top of that, I'm also a programmer. And so at the station, what we've been trying to do around Black August, and I think some of the programming has touched on this, is to really, you know, kind of amplify the music. We're very heavy on the music at DC, kind of amplify the voices of resistance within the music, and to have the programmers discuss that. I've done that on my show. I've heard others do that. I think we're going to continue to do that. And I think obviously that dovetails right into what's happening internally. a lot of the programmers, I speak to them, are very much opposed to what's happened. They understand the reduction of their representation. They understand this has happened before. A lot of them were there from the beginning. Folks like basically who were there the first time the station was on air are still broadcasting with us, and so it's it's not something they haven't seen before, and so I think they're prepared. It just it's just very hard, and I think that's someone was talking about strategy a second ago, trying to get a strategy going around how to get the information out to people who aren't inside the house. It's like you're prevented from doing this. We've got folks being thrown out. We've got another trial I'm hearing. I didn't realize there was something with potentially with Donna coming up. So I think all of this, kind of leads us to having something that's going to land with a boom with the public in some way, shape, or form. I know it feels like it's only our fight and it's a little niche organization, but it's really not. It's really, a coast to coast network of stations that really is kind of founded on moments like this in the country. So that's kind of where we are right now in DC. And I'll pass it over to anybody who wants to discuss the finance piece for what we've been doing there.
Thank you. Thank you a million, Kamal.
Very welcome. Thanks.
Do we have anyone else from the finance committee who'd like to?
I think Michael Novick might be.
Well, I was hoping that Kamal would go into that as well, but
I'll give you something if you want me to. Okay. Not a problem. Yeah. All right. This hasn't been discussed directly, and I think a lot of within the group that is, and I think a lot of where I think the group wants to go, and again, Charlie and folks, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the presentation of real financial information in a timely manner. And one of the things that we are trying to generate is a lever of some sort, some mechanism to force and get this body to commit to such a thing and have it be meaningful. We're coming up on the end of the fiscal year, and the fiscal year not having a budget going in to the next year used to be sounding the alarms. I was on the finance committee for a few years. It was almost impossible to try and get through a meeting without someone raising, "Hey, where's the budget? Where's the budget?" Crickets now. And so I just feel that somehow there's some sort of back room, smoky room discussion that nobody wants to reveal what the finances are. So that's one of the things that the group is really trying to focus on, is how to get out of this current group leadership there, monthly, timely, relevant financial information. We also are trying to talk about a way in which the hiring of the new general managers can be focused around the general manager at the minimum presenting to the local board and or local membership of the station area the finances. You owe it to the membership to tell them what you're doing. And without that, you really don't have people who are going to be overly committed. Sure, there are folks who are always going to give, but a lot of folk want to know, hey, I've given, my 1,500 or whatever my super donor 2,000 for the year. What have you done? And without timely, accurate financial reporting, if not from the Pacifica National Board, from the local general managers. We want that written into some of the duties and responsibilities of any general manager you bring in to the stations. They must have a time each month where they do this, and it cannot be punted at all. It needs to be done, in a consistent basis. Monthly is really the goal. And then lastly, a plan to develop could possibly be developed alongside the planning for the 26 budget, a way to hire a business manager at each station. So the business managers are the ones that will kind of take away from this general manager, which if you look at those job descriptions and responsibilities, it's overwhelming. And the compensation is paltry. In this market in the Washington, D.C. area, the amount of work that they're asking these general managers to do you will not find very many people to do it for the amount of money they're offering. And so to build in a business manager so that they are the ones now that will be able to present and compile the financial information that which the general managers will then present. So that's kind of all the things that are in the air. I think there might be some others. Michael, if you want to help me out there, but the group is really going to focus on a lever, a mechanism, a point of some sort of a way we can develop some power to move the board to much more transparent financial reporting. So that's that. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I would add a couple of things, related to the bylaws discussion we had, which is that we want to restore the local finance committees. The interim general managers, such as myself when I was in that position, did not get any financial data. The PNB would not release it to the IGMs, and most of the stations had no business manager. We were relying on the national business manager. Technically, Pacifica is supposed to have a chief financial officer under the California Corporations Code for nonprofits and does not have one. And so, in a previous tenure on the board, I was the treasurer. We used to post the finances on the station website every month. And all of that kind of transparency is needed. I think it's also, we've been talking about in general, greater financial stability and not relying so heavily on the on-air fund drives. Most nonprofits rely heavily on volunteers. There's a lot of resistance to volunteers. I found within the station I was at. Nonetheless, I was able to appoint, as Charlie pointed out, an unpaid interim operations manager. We had, we got relations with a number of training programs to bring younger staffers in on a periodic basis. We had an unpaid interim program director, unpaid interim general manager as myself, and I think that the boards should be involved in fundraising, and they should be involved in what's called donor stewardship, and the stations in general should be doing that, not just one of the impacts of the stuff that New Day did with the protectors and the attack on WBAI is that Pacific as a whole is under a kind of consent decree with the FCC, in which there's a national compliance officer and very, very strict oversight and regulation of all the on-air fundraising and any underwriting that's done. With the consequences, it's become increasingly difficult to raise money on the air. And I think that we've exhausted a lot of our listeners with that anyway. So we do have to look at other sources of funding, and community events, I think, is a big one. And just in general, cultivating a relationship with our donors so that they understand that it's not just they're not just sending some money in to get a thank you gift. They are empowered, and the bylaws changes that have disempowered the local boards and disempowered the listeners and prevented people from participating on a finance committee because they limited the finance committee is very, very problematic in that respect. And I guess I do want to, again, if I know we're pressed for time, but we did have some other working groups. We have the DEI, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, and overcoming sexism and racism in progressive media. I think that's critical. I think that we do want to get people on this call, and there's still more than 30 people involved in some of these working groups on an ongoing basis to take action and to pressure Pacifica to restore the rights that they've taken away and restore the programming they've taken away. And I want to emphasize, going back to what DJ Eddie said, I think this is a question of challenging white supremacy and its institutionalized form, even within progressive media. So KPFK is running, Tom Hartman, it's running Ian Masters, it's running Mitch Jeserich twice a day. It's running Chris Hedges, it's running Ralph Nader, and it's removed the voices of Black women organizers in Los Angeles from Black Lives Matter, from the Black Lines for Just Immigration. It's removed, environmental programming from Indigenous women. It's removed, even Extinction Rebellion, and that's just critical. I think we have to educate our listeners and educate ourselves and demand a higher standard of accountability and of paying attention to what the leading struggles are. The Black freedom struggle, the migrant rights and worker struggles, the women's struggles, the LGBTQ struggles. I was able to add some additional Spanish language programming, and it's been removed and put on the web, on the internet, from the radio. But that's an audience that's actually listening to radio, Spanish-speaking working people in Los Angeles, up early and going to work and want to hear the news. All those kinds of things are contrary to what Pacifica should be doing, and we have to organize ourselves to, demand something better. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Kirby, I think it might be time for Nancy to give her pitch about editorials or op-eds, I think they're called. Nancy, are you still with us?
I feel the same way. Nancy had joined us by phone, but maybe
is she muted?
She's still muted. She's having to find the button.
Nancy, can you unmute? The unmute countdown.
It's tricky.
Yep. Okay, we're waiting for Nancy to unmute. And while we're waiting for Nancy to unmute, let me just say that our next speaker after Nancy will be none other than Kirby Washington, the voice of reason, who's going to, Kirby is one of the greatest. He's, a very reasonable person, hard to find in Pacifica. And as Michael said, this is an anti-racist group, and it always has been. It's one of the reasons New Day hates us. They do not prioritize being anti-racist at all, and never the twain shall meet in their minds. So I perhaps Nancy is having connection difficulty. So Kirby, if you don't mind.
I'll go very quickly because I know we're over time. So as Michael mentioned, after the January town hall, we decided that we needed to get some action on some things. And so one of the groups that formed from that town hall was what we're calling Overcoming Racism and Sexism in Progressive Media. And we know we've got a real good problem with this in the Pacifica network. And sadly, I've seen, glaring instances of it at 4 of the 5 stations. Haven't seen anything like that at WPFW, but that's only because I don't know. Maybe it's, maybe those folks have gotten things more handled. But anyway, we've spoken about it today, but it really does have an impact. If you've got if we just take it looking at a labor stance, if you've got a bunch of workers who feel like they're better than some other workers and those other workers ought to work for free, what does that do to the workers' bargaining power? The people have already divided their own worker power up and handed it to the boss. And we just go on day by day as though this is not going to affect us. It's a problem, but I'm okay. At the times that we are in now mean that we really do have to fortify ourselves on every part of our solidarity front. And racism and sexism are insidious. They get in, people don't even notice they're there, and pretty soon what we've got is a weaker organization. So that's why that organization exists in Fight Back. And I can go into it more, but we're over time, and I see Nancy still got her hand up. If anyone is interested in that particular group, there's another group that deals with labor organizing kind of on a granular level. feel free to reach out to the Fight Back organization and leave your email, leave your inquiry, and we are sure that we'll take you up on it. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that work group. Thank you. And so, Nancy, how you doing there?
Well, I got to say, Kirby has a lot more to say about this, and racism is a huge issue. It's a huge issue in Pacifica. And when Michael was talking, I thought of the expression "dead man walking." Well, this is like white man talking. That's Pacifica.
Can anyone hear me?
Sound like that. Oh, all right, great. Okay, welcome, Nancy.
Okay, I'll try to
Take
go
it
as fast
away.
as I can because I'm getting dropped off. I'm getting dropped off really fast by my phone, not by anybody else. If you would like to volunteer to help draft or edit some sample letters to send to as op-eds to newspapers or to magazines or to reporters, your favorite reporters at your favorite newspapers or other venues, and also letters to nonprofits. Those are mainly the people that we used to have as members. So write down in the chat or return that you're interested, and we'll get together and share things. And you don't have to be a professional at it. Just if you just want to just give your opinion, that's fine. And we need to do the same thing about elections. Elections are coming up soon. There's a lot of dirty stuff in elections was going on, and it has really dirty results. The other thing is programming. Michael just talked about the programming being KPA-fied. In other words, Berkeley's going into KPFK territory and losing KPFK shows. I think even Code Pink has been taken off. And it's become a little bit like, war is bad, but a little bit of war is okay. And that kind of feeling is spreading in Pacifica from KPFA land, now in KPFK. And I think I think this is something really terrible that we got to fight, and we need the people power to express themselves. Also, I wanted to say something about the purging. There's another 2 members who were purged, not by suspension or not by removal trial, but just putting them in the Zoom waiting room. And WBAI Serene Roberts was put into the Zoom waiting room 3 times in the national board. Paul DiRienzo from WBAI was put into the Zoom waiting room, I think 2 times. And then this year, Serene has been put into the Zoom waiting room again in an open meeting. This is how you silence any kind of person that you don't like. And one time in the November meeting of last year, Paul DiRienzo and Serene Roberts were in the Zoom waiting room, penalized, and we're not really sure why. And they took a vote. And the Secretary Pro Tem was Teresa Allen from KPFT. She said, well, what do we put down for their vote? Well, I'll just put down that they voted no. And this is called voting by proxy. And I have said this before, but this is like, we're the bully now. We got the numbers. We can do any old thing we want. And the membership won't know because they don't even listen to these meetings. And that is true. Not even LSB members listen to the PMB meetings or the finance meeting. It would be nice if people would listen and send the PMB at pacifica.org comments. What do you think about it? Because it's terrible behavior. It's
Nancy, you might have a
terrible.
question.
Okay.
I think you have a question.
Yeah. So if whoever has a question, go ahead. I can't see anything.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry to interrupt like that. But Sally, do you have a question for Nancy or a direct response?
Yeah, I think our LSB this year, first of all, is unanimously supportive of the efforts to bring back democracy to the Pacifica National Board.
You're talking about WBAI.
BAI, yeah. And our meetings have been a lot better this year than in the past. We've got a better chairperson who is seeming to run them pretty well. I mean, there's still occasional problems, but we're much more unified than we used to be. That, you know, it's still, there's still the flare-ups, but, you know, check.
Thank you, Sally. You know, this Kirby, this is a town hall, and I really feel bad if people couldn't speak out at the town hall. So I think we should tack on at least another 5 minutes. People, if you haven't spoken out, you know, if you're shy, please speak up and say something. Say what you're thinking. We'd really like to hear from you. And Kirby, I'll let you handle the Q&A.
Sure, I just was gonna say, you've always put things much better than I do. But that's really, it's really important for us to hear from you. Any thoughts, anything that's come up while we've been in this meeting, any insights? Joan, yes, Joan's got her hand up.
Yes, I just want to thank everybody. This has been a wonderful town hall with so much information, and it's just been actually frightening information about what's going on with everything. But I feel like I know I'm part of the LSB, and I always feel like we really don't do anything. I think we need to go hand in hand around the station. And this is for our very talented illustrator, Sheila. Maybe we can make a circle around the station and protect the station and try and make it so that we can keep the station going. Because if we just go there every month and we don't really do anything, I don't know then they'll say, what is the point of it? And they don't want us to be effective anymore anyway. And I think it's a good idea to reach out to all the journalists on all the papers and the magazines and see who we can get to go along with us to speak up. They're trying to silence us, and that is the worst thing. We got to speak up as loud as we can and make sure everybody hears us. And thank you.
Thank you, Joni. Nancy, that was a part of a question and reverb to you. Do you want to say anything? Kamal's got his hand up. He might have something to add to that, or do you want to respond to Joni real quick? I think maybe Nancy's good. Kamal, please take the mic.
No, I just had a quick question. It's not anything related to what was just said, just kind of as a specific, being chair of the PFW LSB currently, I wanted a little bit of feedback, and I'm trying to put together a little bit of a strategy around connecting with the other LSB chairs. And I've heard a little bit of a rumors that some of the chairs are mirroring what the national board chair does in terms of the way they conduct meetings, putting folks in waiting rooms and silencing dissent or opposition. Is that the culture around the other stations, or do we have a mixed bag? How are some of the other folks experiencing their local station board meetings? Kind of my question.
Anybody want to speak? Sue Cohen Johnson hasn't spoke. She's got her hand up. Anybody got a direct response to that question? And then Sue, you got your hand up. Sue, maybe Sally's got a direct response, but Sue, why don't you take the mic, and then we'll jump around. Sue, are you Sue Cohen Johnson? Are you able to unmute?
Let you lower her hand.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So direct responses to Kamal's question. Anyone have one? Elizabeth Marlos has got to go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think it's the other way around. I think the actual influence that has been exerted in terms of this culture of muting people has been I really believe it started more in KPFA. Carol Wolfley, in particular, the secretary, who was the secretary, she doesn't allow PMB directors to even be present during the executive sessions, and doesn't allow other LSB members or PMB directors to speak during public comment. during the KPFA LSB, yet she goes and speaks during public comment in other LSB meetings in other stations all the time. And she was also a member of the elections committee, and she has instituted this not only her, but Christina Huggins, Fred Dodsworth, all of these members of the protectors have been instituting these kind of anti-democratic methods. And also referring to the elections, we've had problems with elections before, honestly, even before this New Day amendment or New Day bylaws. The way the elections were carried out, and in fact, the way Susan Young from the PMB became the PMB director is also very suspicious because of the way that the elections were handled at the KPFT level, how people who were supporting Adriana Casanova, I'm sorry, Adriana, who was the KPFT LSB, LSB, she was the PMB director at the time. The way that the Susan Young became that was it basically disqualified, didn't inform the KPFT LSD about nominating all of the members. She left out the names of the people who were very clearly her opposition when she sent an email to the KPFT LSB members, reminding them to nominate people. Susan Young at the time was the chair of the elections committee as well as the chair of the KPFT LSB. So in her dual function, she omitted potential candidates who needed to be nominated and needed to reach the nomination threshold in her emails.
Kamal put his hand back up. I think he might have some response to this, and then we've got a few other hands up. But I really do. Was a good question. Like what we've all experiencing this. What's it look like? How can we collate it and fight against it? So Nancy,
I have a response as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Janet. So let's see. Nancy, Michael, and Janet have their hand up. Kamal, do you want to refine your question before we go to Nancy, Michael, and Janet?
Well, no, I just want to make sure that folks are just aware. My thought process on this is to kind of get an understanding of what's happening, and then in the last remaining months here that we have in this current format and this transition or whatever, before we kind of really at least modify it, back to some kind of semblance of democracy. What I'm trying to do is then get those folks in the chair positions to come together and kind of come to a kind of best practices. And I kind of want to have just a little bit of preparation before I go into that to try to understand how to best move people back to a more democratic and following kind of Robert's rules, and why or why not people are doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? Kind of justifying or suggesting a reason why they're operating in the way they do. So it's not just me kind of gossiping. I'm actually really trying to focus in on problem solving here and move people out of what appears to be, clearly a fascist bend and back to a much more democratic one. So that's the strategy around it. I wanted to make sure that was known. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamal.
Yeah.
So we got those 3 hands up, but we haven't heard from Janet all evening.
Okay,
So Janet, and then Nancy, and then Michael. No
Okay,
disagreement.
just let me quickly respond to something that Elizabeth said about KPFA and Carol Wolfley. When the time that the silencing of LSB members began in any LSB or PNB or whatever was in 2017. And it was when Steve Zeltzer had been elected to the LSB, and I was on it at the time. And he wanted to record, video meetings and also speak up, and they didn't like what he was saying, or he would even try to make a motion, and they didn't want him to make a motion. And they made a fuss. Carol was the secretary at the time, and I think Christina was either acting chair or chair. And so all of a sudden, at the next meeting, they came up with these rules of conduct. They, meaning Carol Wolfley, wrote them up, and they started reading them at the beginning of the meetings. And if you violated them, then they'd send you off. They used it against Steve. And so that was the beginning of it. And he was eventually removed at that time, or in 2018. I can't remember exactly when.
Thank you, Janet. Let's see, Michael, Nancy, who's got, Nancy's even unmuted. By the way, folks, I've been through this for 30 years in my union in Hollywood. I've seen this played out. I have some things to say about it, but I won't tonight. We can do that later. Let's see, Michael, go, and then we'll grab Nancy.
Okay, so I was going to say that when I was the chair of the KPFK local station board before I became the IGM, I did try to convene some meetings of the 5 board chairs with some success. I think people should communicate despite the factional differences. I do think that this latest iteration that of what Janet was talking about is that the ED arranged for Executive Director Stephanie Wells arranged for someone to do HR and anti-bullying training, quote unquote. And the anti-bullying training consisted of trying to shut up anybody objecting to the railroading of New Day, mechanisms through the local station boards. And I think that what's called for is not anti-bullying training, but anti-oppression training around white supremacy, male supremacy, and the way those things are enforced by, mechanisms like these rules of procedure and order. So
I mean,
I think
oppression training, not anti-oppression.
I said, well, anti-oppression training meaning to educate people to the need to oppose oppression, and that oppression exists within the framework of Pacifica. Anti-oppression training is training to elevate people's consciousness understanding about the existence of white supremacy and of male supremacy in an institutionalized fashion. It's not about charging individuals necessarily as being racist or sexist, but it's understanding that those mechanisms operate even in supposedly left or progressive institutions, and that they have to be consciously opposed and uprooted. And I think that we need that kind of commitment here at Pacifica Fight Back and within Pacifica in general. And I think that that kind of training is really called for. And that is something that has been discussed in the DEI Overcoming Racism and Sexism Working Group. So, the anti-bullying training that took place at KPFK under the auspices of the national office at a local station board meeting that was dominated by New Day was basically, reinforcing the attempt to shut people up and shut people down and prevent any kind of discussion of those issues and suppress the input and discussion of listeners at large, let alone other local station board members. And I think that has to be reversed, and it has to be reversed with an anti-racist and anti-sexist consciousness. I'm done.
Thank you, Michael. Nancy, I think you're going to take us out. I think.
I just forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
In the pre-existing bylaws, we don't have to reinvent the wheel completely, Mr. Harris. In the pre-existing bylaws, and it's on, Michael has it on Fightback, PacificaFightback.org. Defend. It's the first point on the menu, and he's got the pre-existing bylaws, and then scratch outs where it was removed, and then underline something that was added. And we already have a rule that says every director can be heard, can speak, can oppose or propose or take part in discussion. So when you put somebody in the Zoom waiting room, or you suspend them and not let them enter the meeting, you're violating that bylaw, and that was violated so much even before this new bylaw came out. And last year in June, the person, the PFB director, Mila Reason from KPFK, she admitted that she put Rodrigo Argueta into the Zoom waiting room, and that she said he tried to get back into the meeting twice and she prevented him. She's telling everybody during the LSB meeting that she prevented him twice, and now she said he's gone away. So she's actually decided by herself to remove him. You know, there's no trial. This is horrible. That was in a June meeting of last year, and putting and suspending Alex Steinberg and putting Serene Roberts into the Zoom waiting room, and this is just violation of the bylaw. They've been doing this. I don't know what it takes, but we don't have enough we don't have an informed membership. They don't know what's going on. That's why the point of these town halls that Pacifica Fight Back has been doing. New Day does not do any town halls. And we've been trying to just tell the membership. And there's a small crowd today present because we don't have, you know, it's expensive to get the membership list. And now we can't even do it unless it's an election season. All these new rules are popping up. This is not a good situation, but we have a very worthwhile organization to keep alive for the next generation. And that's the only reason why I'm still in this fight. Back to you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you very much. I appreciate the passion and the willingness to articulate it. Folks, Sheila's got her hand up. I think yes, please, Ms. Hamanaka.
Thank you. Folks, I must say I'm really amazed that almost 100% of the people who attended this town hall are still here. That's incredible. And I think it shows a real interest and devotion and love of Pacifica Radio and of your stations. And I applaud you for coming and for staying. And stay tuned. We're going to have more town halls. And coming up at the end of September or the beginning of October, the Ida B. Wells Media Defense Network is going to have a public in-person event, hybrid event, so people around the country can attend at the People's Forum in New York City. And we really look forward to that. That's going to be very important, a very important event. And please join one of our committees. Stay tuned. Michael has your email addresses. You know, we apologize that this town hall was kind of rushed, and so therefore the attendance is small. We're going to try to build them and get better attendance at our future meetings, and you can help us. And don't forget, we have coming up elections. They seem far off, but they're really not. The elections are one time when you can actually reach out to other members. That's the only time, then and during referenda, that you can actually contact the other 25 or 35,000 members of Pacifica. Otherwise, you know, New Day has a stranglehold on us being able to reach other members. So we need committees to build for those elections and for a new bylaws convention that was proposed by P.K. McCary from KPFT. So please join us. And thanks, Kamal. You have great ideas, and thank you for adding your energy, and you and Charlie and other members from the other stations. So Michael, do you have anything closing to say?
Yeah, just quickly, one of the bylaws changes that we're recommending, there is a bylaws working group, and I think there is interest in having a bylaws conference or convention. One of the things we're proposing is money out of Pacifica politics and elections, so that elections can't be bought by deep pockets who have, glossy mailers and access, and other people don't. But we need to organize. We need to organize at every one of our stations, and we need to organize it consciously, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, anti-sexist base among listeners about the potential at this point, I think, is what it is. I think very few stations have enough programming of the kind we're looking for, BAI now and PFW maybe, or islands to a certain extent, but the Ks, I don't think, are fulfilling their obligation under the mission. And if people want to organize, I think along the lines that Nancy was talking about getting op-eds out there and getting the word out there and finding ways to communicate to the potential base for Pacifica, I think that's vital. I think in the chat it was mentioned there are Labor Day actions coming up around the country. Labor Day is September 1st. And I think we should be out there at those actions with information about how people can turn Pacifica around so that it becomes a tool or a weapon for the people's struggles at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And as DJ Eddie said, in the oppressed communities in the United States, 40% of the people can't even afford to be online. And radio can be a free medium. I guess that's it. Kirby?
All looks good. I don't know if Nancy's got a legacy hand up, but I think we are good to go.
Yeah, thank you.
Nancy would like a debriefing session by the organizers after this meeting adjourns for a short debrief.
Some people have a lot of it. Okay, thanks. Thank you to all of our listeners and staff and LSB members and national directors who attended. It was great. Thank you very much.
Would we have a minute or so to look at the chat before it all disappears?
Sure.
Get down.
I guess you can address that to Michael. Michael is
I just
Grand Master. He is the Zoom host.
If you click the three dots to the top of the chat, you can save it yourself, and we're saving it. We'll make it available to people and fight back. And we'll probably the audio will be up on the website. I don't know, within a week or so once we download it.
And Michael, is there an email address, a general email address that people
General email address is pacificafightback@gmail.com. Pacifica Fightback, all one word, @gmail.com.
PacificaFightback@gmail.com. Thank you, Michael.
Sure.
We're going to look into that TikTok stuff too. Okay, Michael's going to pull the plug.
All right, I'm going to pull the plug. The members of Fightback can get on the regular Fightback meeting Zoom.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good work, all. Good night.